the spark that lit the fire. The grand halls of High Imperius shimmered with golden light, the towering spires of the Galactic Empire's capital stretching into the sky like the fingers of gods. Ambassador James Carter strode through the marble corridors with practiced confidence, though the tension in his shoulders betrayed his unease. Behind him, Captain Sarah Vasquez and two Terran security officers followed closely, their hands resting near their holstered sidearms. Carter had spent years in these halls, fighting to secure humanity's place in the Empire. They had been granted trade rights, limited autonomy, and a voice, however small, on the Imperial Council. But now they sought equality, a seat at the table not as vassals, but as partners, and that terrified the Empire. The doors to the council chamber slid open with a deep hiss, revealing a vast circular room lined with representatives from 100 worlds. At the head sat Grand Regent Valzoran, his scaled visage twisted into an expression of contempt. "Ambassador Carter," Valzoran drawled, his voice laced with feigned politeness. "You return with more demands, I presume?" Carter forced a smile. "Not demands, Grand Regent. Humanity has upheld every agreement made with the Empire. We have contributed to galactic trade, security, and exploration. We seek only what is fair, equal representation." A murmur spread through the chamber. Some delegates nodded in approval, others scoffed. Valzoran leaned forward, his slitted eyes narrowing. "Fair," he sneered. "Your species is young, impulsive. You have clawed your way to the stars with brute force and arrogance, not wisdom." His voice dropped lower. "The Empire has endured for 10,000 years. We will not bow to upstarts." Carter remained composed. "Then you make a mistake, Regent. Humanity is patient, but we will not be ignored forever." Valzoran's lip curled. "Then perhaps patience is your kind's weakness." Before Carter could respond, a sharp crack echoed through the chamber. The ambassador staggered, confusion flashing across his face as a thin red line traced down his chest. He fell to his knees, gasping. Blood pooled beneath him. Chaos erupted. Vasquez's instincts took over. She drew her weapon, scanning for the shooter, but Imperial guards were already moving, their rifles aimed at the Terrans. "Get down," she barked, shoving one of the security officers behind a pillar. They planned this. The council descended into uproar. Valzoran remained seated, watching Carter's final moments with cold indifference. Vasquez pressed a hand to Carter's wound, but it was too late. His gaze met hers, his lips forming silent words before the light faded from his eyes. Then, a voice rang out through the chamber, amplified by Imperial speakers. "The Terran diplomat has been executed for crimes against the Empire. Let this be a lesson. Humanity has overstepped its place." Vasquez clenched her teeth, rage and grief burning through her. No trial, no warning, just murder. She activated her comms. "This is Captain Vasquez. The ambassador is dead. The Empire just declared war. And humanity would answer." The line awakens. The image of Ambassador Carter's lifeless body flickered on the massive holoscreen in the United Terran Systems war room. Silence hung heavy in the chamber, broken only by the quiet hum of tactical displays and data streams. The most powerful leaders of humanity were gathered here, and all eyes were on President Helena Graves. She stood at the head of the table, hands clasped behind her back, her face a mask of cold fury. The assassination had been broadcast across Terran space, a message from the Galactic Empire. But they had miscalculated. Humanity had received the message loud and clear, and now they would respond. Admiral Jonathan Pierce cleared his throat, breaking the silence. "Madam President, we have confirmed reports from Captain Vasquez. The assassination was a deliberate act, orchestrated by Grand Regent Valzoran himself. Imperial forces attempted to silence our delegation, but Vasquez and her team escaped." He paused. "We have satellite intel showing fleet mobilization on the Empire's outer rim. They expect retaliation." Graves inhaled slowly. "Then they understand what comes next." General Elias Stone, a veteran of the Martian conflicts, leaned forward. "We must strike first. Hard. Fast. Show them that humanity is not prey. There was no dissent. The time for diplomacy had ended the moment Carter bled out on the council floor. Graves turned to her defense minister. What's our readiness status? Operation Retribution has been prepared for years, the minister replied. Our fleets are fully mobilized. The Leviathan-class dreadnoughts are armed and operational. Special forces are standing by for deep strike missions. All we need is your order. The president looked around the room. These were not politicians debating policy. These were warriors, strategists, men and women who had fought for every inch of humanity's place among the stars. Her gaze hardened. Then we proceed. A holographic map of the galaxy flickered to life, detailing the battle plan. Phase 1. Secure the borders. Strike Imperial frontier worlds, crippling supply lines and forcing their fleets to spread thin. Phase 2. Cripple their war machine. Assault shipyards, weapons factories, and infrastructure. Ensure they cannot replace what they lose. Phase 3. Cut off the head. High Imperius would burn. The Empire's leadership would fall. This is not just retribution, Graves said, voice steady. This is survival. The Empire believes it can slaughter us without consequence. That belief ends today. She met the eyes of every leader in the room. Make them fear us. Admiral Pierce nodded. I'll have the fleet ready within the hour. General Stone rose. The boots of the Terran army will be the last thing the Empire hears before their world crumbles. Graves turned back to the holoscreen, where Carter's face remained frozen in time. They wanted war. She exhaled, her voice now a whisper of iron resolve. Let's give it to them. Fire and fury. The void of space burned. The Terran First Fleet tore through the Imperial defenses above Vornis 7, a key industrial world deep in the Empire's outer rim. Battleships exchanged relentless salvos, the sheer force of humanity's assault overwhelming the enemy's formations. Leviathan-class dreadnoughts, colossal war machines bristling with cutting-edge weaponry, carved through the enemy lines like gods of war. Commander Eric Hawthorne stood on the bridge of the TNS Warspite, watching as explosions bloomed across the battlefield. The Empire had assumed humanity would be sluggish, hesitant. Instead, the attack had been surgical, ruthless, and devastating. Enemy fleet is breaking formation, his tactical officer reported. They weren't prepared for this kind of firepower. Hawthorne gave a grim nod. They thought we were weak. Now they learn. The Empire's ships, larger but outdated, struggled against humanity's superior targeting systems and high-mobility strike craft. Terran fighter squadrons weaved through the enemy's capital ships, launching precision torpedo strikes that turned once mighty warships into drifting wrecks. On the surface of Vornis 7, the Terran ground forces launched their assault. Captain Sarah Vasquez led her mechanized infantry through the ruins of an imperial city, exoskeletons amplifying their speed and strength. Drones and orbital bombardments had softened enemy defenses, but the real fight had just begun. A squad of Imperial Zarlon shock troops emerged from cover, firing plasma weapons in rapid bursts. Vasquez dived behind a crumbling wall, barked a command into her comms. Mech units, light them up. From above, a Titan-class combat mech crashed down, its heavy cannons unleashing a torrent of firepower. The Zarlon warriors were torn apart in seconds. The battlefield belonged to humanity now. Vasquez wiped sweat from her brow and checked her ammo. They were pushing toward the Imperial Command Center. If they could take it, Vornis 7 would fall, and the road to the Empire's core worlds would be open. Meanwhile, at the heart of the Empire, Emperor Zelzorak watched the destruction unfold through a holofeed in his war room. His claws clenched against the armrest of his throne. "They are unstoppable," muttered Warlord Craxius, his chief military advisor. Zalzarak's yellow eyes burned with fury. "No, they are vermin that must be crushed." "But, Majesty," the Emperor rose to his full height, towering over his warlords. "Mobilize every ship, every soldier. If we cannot destroy them in battle, we will burn their worlds to cinders." Back at Vornis 7, Vasquez and her troops breached the command center. The last of the Imperial officers surrendered, hands raised in defeat. The battle was over. She activated her comms. Vornis, 7 is ours. The Empire's defenses are crumbling. On the warspite, Hawthorne heard the message and smiled grimly. He turned to his crew. Then it's time for the next phase. Humanity was not stopping. Not until the Empire was ashes. The Empire falls. The skies above High Imperius, the heart of the Galactic Empire, were aflame. The United Terran Systems fleet had broken through the Imperial Grand Armada, tearing apart centuries-old defenses with brutal efficiency. Wreckage of once mighty Imperial warships drifted in orbit, glowing embers against the void. The final battle had begun. Aboard the TNS Warspite, Admiral Jonathan Pierce observed the carnage. His fleet had fought its way through countless systems, each victory pushing humanity closer to the Empire's throat. Now they were here to finish it. Ground forces are deploying, his tactical officer reported. Captain Vasquez is leading the strike team. Pierce nodded. Then this war ends today. On the surface, Captain Sarah Vasquez sprinted through the burning streets of the Imperial capital, her rifle tight in her grip. The city that had once been a monument to the Empire's unchallenged rule was now a battlefield. Terran drop pods rained from the sky, armored divisions pushing forward through collapsing defenses. At the heart of the chaos stood the Imperial Palace, a towering fortress of obsidian and gold. The last stronghold of Emperor Zalzarak. Move! We take that palace. We take the Empire. Vasquez barked over comms. Explosions thundered as Terran mech units tore through enemy barricades. Imperial soldiers fought with desperation, but their formations crumbled under the relentless assault. Humanity had come not as invaders, but as executioners. Inside the palace, Zalzarak stood in his war room, watching the holofeeds as his empire fell apart. His warlords had fled. His fleets were gone. Still, his pride would not allow surrender. The grand doors burst open. Vasquez and her strike team stormed in, weapons raised. Zalzarak stood tall, his golden armor gleaming in the firelight. I should have eradicated your species the moment you left your homeworld. His voice dripped with contempt. Vasquez raised her rifle. And that's why you lost. The Emperor roared and lunged, a blade of plasma igniting in his claws. But Vasquez was faster. A single shot rang out. The bolt struck between his eyes. Zalzarak collapsed to the floor, the last ruler of the Empire slain. Silence filled the chamber. Then, Vasquez activated her comms. High Imperius is ours. The Emperor is dead. Aftermath. The next day, the Empire surrendered unconditionally. What had stood for 10,000 years had fallen in mere months. The Terran flag was raised over the Imperial capital, and across the galaxy, countless species watched in awe and fear. On Earth, President Helena Graves stood before the cameras, delivering humanity's final message to the conquered empire. We came in peace. You denied us peace, so we gave you war. Now, you have a choice, coexist or vanish. Humanity had spoken, and the galaxy would never be the same.